And so now Asia is in focus, and we now have the angel of the abyss leading his locust troops. And, an interesting, kind of see a trend here going on Earth in which man is relinquishing command to angels, or in this case, fallen angels. Beginning with the Antichrist and the false prophet, we see that Satan is brought down to earth because of the war in heaven. And, he takes up residence on earth. And the Bible says, "Woe to the inhabitants of the earth, for Satan knows that his time is short." And he gives the kingdoms of the world to the Antichrist. And he becomes the ruler, becomes the proxy of Satan in the world. But make no mistake, Satan really is the one in charge. And of course he is the fallen angel. And so you have, in many ways, fallen man has relinquished their authority to angels to lead them, amazingly. And so, what are we to make of this? Well, times are changing, I guess. And the angels, if you're an Ancient Alien fan, this is probably a dream come true. Here we go, we got ancient aliens revealing themselves and offering their support for you. No doubt offering the knowledge of the ages. Who knows what kind of technological information they can give you. And, I just think of the know-how of the past that they would just be able to bring to the table. And so man is impressed, and they would be, and they're going to be. It's not just an Asian thing. It's a European thing. And, all of mankind, if they're in a fallen state, they don't believe in Christ. But, they believe in aliens, So, in essence, this is an alien full disclosure moment, I suppose. And so now out come the aliens, and but we know them as fallen angels. But the Locust Army, however, these guys right here, these were created by the angels, apparently, in eternity past sometime, before the creation of man. Is it possible that these creatures, these locust creatures, and the next army that we're going to see come onto the stage, were these creatures really, did they live on this planet before man was created? In the Bible, it does describe not only Noah's flood, but it actually describes a flood before Noah. So really there's like two global floods of water. And could it be that all the ancient megalithic structures that we see on Earth today, we ascribe those to humans, in some time in the past. And some have speculated that maybe, 12,000 years ago, there was a race of humans that, had high technology, and they created these stone structures, but they were wiped out in some cataclysm of the past. And thus, the only thing that's left are these huge stone structures that clearly, native man, caveman, could not have possibly created. And that includes the pyramids of Egypt, by the way. And, but could it be? What we have here is really the angels that created this race of beings. Maybe this was their world before God placed them in this vault, the bottomless pit. And this angel that leads them may have been their creator, the creator God, if you will. And so, what we see here with the locust troops, they're really a hybrid race, a hominid race of sorts that is part animal and part insect, really. And apparently they're described as having long hair and fangs, as well as tails that sting. I mean, this is, what the heck is this? But of course, we watch all kinds of sci-fi films and movies and shows. And there's all kinds of wild ideas of what aliens could look like. Is it so far-fetched, therefore, to believe that an alien race could actually emerge from within the Earth, being led by a super intelligent race of beings called angels? No, of course not. That's certainly plausible, I would argue. And of course, it's in the Bible. And as I often state, that science is actually caught up with the Bible, not the other way around. And, because this story of Revelation, this is the revelation of Jesus Christ given to John. It's not St. John the Revelator. It's really Jesus Christ the Revelator. And Jesus Christ tells us of these creatures from 2,000 years ago. So this information has been around for a long time. It's just that we, in our modern society and our sophisticated thinking, we might reject that as just old fables. The Bible's just old fables, just myths, handed down from other civilizations, masquerading as morality. But in fact, the Bible is quite true, and the information contained therein is quite relevant even for today. So, so we have these creatures, these locust creatures, and they emerge from the bottomless pit, what is known as the bottomless pit in the Bible. It's also known as the abyss. And we have the king of the abyss, this angel called Apollyon in the Greek. This, of course, is not Satan. Satan still has access, or is able to fly throughout the universe today. He can access the throne room of God today, but this particular angel is sealed with these locust troops in that vault, the abyss. But now the abyss is open in this Armageddon order of battle, in this timeline of doom, if you will. And so now they emerge from the abyss and they head into Asia. The reason why I say they head into Asia is because this is the largest population center on Earth by the time we get to the end of tribulation. Mostly tribulation has afflicted the whole world, and Asia, apart from maybe tsunami waves and some earthquakes, has emerged unscathed, if you will. But now it is Asia's turn to endure the worst that Satan has to offer, which in this case is a demonic invasion on the earth. So they go forth, and these locust troops, they go into Asia, and they paralyze everyone they come in contact with, and they set the stage really for the next invasion that's going to come on the scene. And so we'll get into that next. So now we have the first part of what I call Operation Death in Hades, as represented by the fourth seal that was opened to us, showing Death in Hades, the pale horse with its rider. And of course in the Greek, the pale horse is really a green horse. And so I've shown these figures, the first figures, as green. And these guys will come out as green. And so we have another army, another demonic army that emerges, but this time from a different parts of the earth. And it says in the Bible that 4 of God's angels are actually suppressing this great army that is waiting to emerge from within the earth. And they emerge through the dried riverbed of the Euphrates River. The Euphrates. I don't know how you say it. But anyway, so this dried river essentially is a doorway, a vault door, once again, to the underworld, apparently, according to the Bible. But the angels will open it up and allow this army to emerge. And again, these demonic invasions of the earth last for 5 months. And because we know that the first part of this army, the Scorpion troops of the Abyss, they are allowed only 5 months to do their damage, if you will. But this is obviously in conjunction, this is kind of a search and destroy mission for Satan, using his pre-positioned troops within the earth. And so now the second part of this demonic invasion emerges from the dried riverbed of the Euphrates. And so the no doubt a rip in the earth occurs and opens up the earth, and out pours a demonic army, being led this time by 4 angels. You'll notice that the Scorpion troops were led by one angel, the angel of the Abyss, and he is a being of light, by the way, even though I've depicted him here as being, this grotesque figure. But he is a being of light, and these angels emerge from Euphrates. 4 angels, these 4 angelic generals, and they too lead their armies of dragons. So again, these 4 angelic generals emerge from within the earth. Again, these are angels. These are not, they're not human, and of course, they're not ugly or anything like that. I got these little figures here from my Pirates of the Caribbean chess set, just in case you wanted to know. But, these are ugly creatures here. But really, we're talking angels. These are fallen angels that emerge. They were imprisoned, by the way, with this army that's going to come out. And this is the only army that I know of, at least in prophecy, that's actually numbered. We actually know the number of this army. The armies of the east that come across the river, the dried river bed of the Euphrates, we don't know that number. A lot of people misinterpret the armies of the east with this army that does emerge from under the world, or in the underworld. They do often confuse that with this army of 200 million riders, as it says. And this army that emerges is not the armies of the East, and they're not even human. Okay? And they're obviously not angelic. So again, these armies that come out, they will kill all that come in their path. Okay, this is not a metaphor. This is not an analogy. Okay, this is also not a, this is not a human force at all. And so, these are, I have these depicted, these armies that come out following the 4 angels that are leading them. These armies I have depicted are these cannons here. And these armies, the number is 200 million, okay? That's a huge army, by the way. No man-made army has that number of men. You look at the American Civil War, kind of the amazing thing about the American Civil War, I think we were the first army to actually field 1 million men. And General Grant, Ulysses S. Grant, commanded the Union forces, which numbered about 1 million men, stretching along a, 2,000-mile front. But that's a, and then come World War II, or World War I and World War II, and you've got some pretty large armies there. But again, I think the biggest the army has been, whether it be Axis or Allied, I think is like 3 million, about 3 or 4 million, and that's pretty recent history. So a 200 million man army, I'm not sure that not even communist China could field such an army. Just the cost of it would be too great. And I really don't think they have enough healthy young men, by the way, to field such an army. in human armies, there is a specific age group that can only join it. And usually, it's between 16 years of age to basically, 40, 16 to 40. After that, you're either too young or too old to really march and engage in combat. And if you're older, you can be in combat command, but that's way different than being actually in the field. So there's really only a very small window for human beings to actually serve in the military. But in this case, this army of 200 million emerged from within the earth. And no doubt each angel commands an army of 50 million each, which is why I have divided in 4 here. So each angel has his own army, an army of 50 million. And this will give it some flexibility in order to go in different directions if it wanted to. But amazingly, the book of Joel I call the book of the 3 woes. Really, the book of Joel in the Old Testament actually describes what Israel is going to endure supernaturally. And we say supernaturally, but really, these are alien species, right? And the Bible describes these riders, these horses, describes them as horses, but they have these huge heads that spit fire or spew out fire. And I just kind of call them dragons, just for a lack of a better word. And but I have them depicted here as cannons, right? But a lot of people have interpreted this army as being, a modern equivalent of a tank. And, because out of, the tank barrel comes fire, etc. But, these are living creatures, by the way. These aren't mechanical forces. These aren't machines. They have free will, once again. Just like the locust armies being led by the angel of the abyss, these armies being led by 4 fallen angels, and the Bible does not give us their names, but just simply that they're 4 fallen angels. These armies are, again, an alien species which no doubt probably lived on Earth before the creation of man. And, again, Satan is their god, right? Satan no doubt created them. If they created the Nephilim of Noah's flood, this half angelic, half human breed of creatures, could they in eternity past have created something similar to the Nephilim? But humans weren't around then, so they used animals and insects or whatever, or dare I say, dinosaurs. Could they have melded these creatures and given them sentient life somehow? Maybe that's the crime of Satan. He gave them life and defied God so that he could become God. And we don't know. We'll soon find out, though, very shortly, I would imagine. And so, nevertheless, this is a pre-positioned army, once again, by Satan. If Satan could use these armies sooner, he would. And but God limits him to, again, 5 months, which is actually the exact time of Noah's flood. And wherever these armies go, they actually do the killing, right? So these locust armies, they sting, but they don't kill. But these armies, they do all the killing. And it says they kill by fire, by smoke, and let's see, what else do they do? There's a number of things they do, but their main way of killing is by fire. So this is why I kind of call them dragons, but we really don't know what kind of creature they are. And so, whatever comes before them is consumed by them in a similar way like the locust, but they're not locusts. But they are riders, the riders, but they're not horses, even though they're described as such. but they too have free will, right? These armies are led by angels. This is not a virus, by the way. This is not a disease. These are sentient beings, and they seek victory, and they follow a god, their god, Satan. And so these angels leading these alien forces come across the earth, and they head into Asia. And that is the meaning of the fourth horseman of the apocalypse. That is death and Hades. Okay? And so Revelation 9, which talks about the first and second woes, or the fifth and sixth trumpets of the judgment of God, is talking about death and Hades. And so these guys come out and they go into Asia. Asia has they have a big fondness for dragons, and God gives them really what they desire. But unfortunately, these dragons do not bring good luck. They bring death and destruction, and ultimately the extinction of mankind. What's interesting is you might say, well, why would Satan do this? Why would Satan bring out these demonic forces and yet tell his human hosts to follow him? Because clearly we have human armies sitting here in the Middle East. Wouldn't these demon armies be a threat to them? The answer is yes. They would be a threat to them. But Satan directs his angelic generals to go eastward, and but eventually all of humanity would be threatened by these demonic forces. And again, we turn to Hitler and the Third Reich at the very end of World War II. In Hitler's last days, he admits that Germany kind of deserves to lose, and he didn't like Germany. He doesn't like Germans, and for Hitler, he felt that all the good Germans were dead from the war, and those that were alive now, they're kind of the losers, really, and he didn't want to be a part of the losers. So Germany deserved to lose. Such was the attitude of Hitler towards his home country. Well, is this the same attitude that Satan will have of his human followers? No doubt, no doubt. His true followers are these guys over here, right? The angels that follow him, the demonic armies that he created, this odd species. Sentient life forms, but this human race, this really is a product of God. Even in the fallen state, Satan really doesn't care for them, and if Satan had his way, all of humanity, both elect and fallen, good and bad, would simply be eliminated from the earth. But for the moment, he is using all that he has. The cards he has been dealt with, he's going to try to play his best hand with it. And so Satan has his human armies in the Middle East. And again, I think they're in the Middle East primarily to stop Jesus Christ, but maybe secondarily to seek out the righteous and really just get rid of, if he can find the righteous, then he can just have them killed. And again, the scorpion troops of the locust armies, these guys, they're not allowed to attack anybody with the divine mark on their forehead, which in this case was the Jewish core, that has taken the righteous into the wilderness of Israel. And of course, the wilderness in the Middle East is desert. So, they're not hiding in the forest. They're not hiding in the mountains. They would have to be within caverns under the desert somewhere. I'm not sure where, but somewhere they will be, and these human armies therefore will be tasked to locate the hidden base, if you will. And so, but in the meantime, Satan unleashes the ultimate army, his demonic army, and they head into Asia. And it says that death in Hades is given authority over a quarter of the earth. Now, a virus is never given authority, right? It doesn't take orders. So this is obviously a sentient species that is unknown to humanity, thus an alien species. And they're obviously given a short amount of time to do what they're going to do, which is the total eradication of humanity. And so Asia gets the full brunt of this demonic invasion, and they will burn. So says the Bible. And so quite a horrific scene, quite a frightening scene, to be honest. And now as we get to the end of tribulation, it appears that there is no hope. All is lost. But then a light shines forth through the darkness.